Few beverages in the world have become as popular, exciting and highly appreciated as a cup of high-quality, well-prepared coffee. Connoisseurs agree that this beverage is capable of offering a complex taste and experience that goes beyond being a simple stimulant or thirst quencher. Its exquisite aroma and flavor offer a wide range of sensations that comfort the physical and spiritual state of those who consume it. Coffee is much more than a simple beverage. It is a special product that requires complex growing conditions and a great deal of dedication in the processing of the bean. Behind this delicious product there is not only a continuous effort to support quality. There is a not very well-known story of how the people of the countryside in Colombia came together to overcome challenges and seek common goals that would not have been achieved individually. In order to understand the geopolitical development of Colombia more or less up to 1930, it is necessary to understand the coffee culture and all that it entails. Coffee originated in Ethiopia and entered the American continent around 1720 through Martinique. The first record of the discovery of a coffee bush was in the year 1730, at the mouth of the Meta River in the Orinoco. In the year 1910, between 1890 and 1910, we went from producing 60,000 bags to 600,000 bags of coffee in 20 years. A process of strengthening of the coffee agro-industry in Colombia began, which culminated in 1930, making us the second country, in volume, with the second largest production in the world, followed by Brazil. The coffee produced in Colombia is characterized for being a beverage with a clean cup, with acidity and medium-high body, pronounced and full aroma, while the coffee originating in Brazil is a little stronger. Later on, there are processes that, in the logical order of coffee growing, are being modernized. In 1982, a rust-resistant variety called Colombia was developed, and currently a more resistant variety called Colombia Castillo Rosario is being worked on. More or less in 1995, based on the weaknesses suffered by Colombian commerce and production, because in the 90s we went from being the second largest producers, producing 16 million bags, to this year producing 7 million bags. The National Federation of Coffee Growers and the coffee traders and producers had to differentiate ourselves, because we have always been suppliers of raw materials. And in 1995 the specialty coffee programs were created. A coffee is considered special when it is perceived and valued by the consumer for a characteristic that makes it different to conventional coffees, for which they are willing to pay a better price. In order for this coffee to be undoubtedly special, the added value that the consumer is going to pay should mean a great benefit for the producer. In 2005, coffee became the first product in Colombia to obtain certification of origin. The first product in Colombia that you can sell abroad with traceability. That is to say, you can say to the final consumer, look at this product from this farm, from this crop that is grown at such an altitude above sea level, that has these characteristics and all of these characteristics that I am mentioning: the rate, the origin, the traceability and the environmental friendliness, which are seals that differentiate the coffee and that give it these certifications, make it possible to access higher prices. There is no activity that irrigates more wealth in more hands than the coffee activity. To become a coffee grower, you have to do it from the heart. This is more than an economic activity, it is a life activity, it is a life project that those of us who are involved in it live it this way, that is why we suffer it and enjoy it above all we enjoy it. Dawn breaks and the sun makes its appearance through the mist, shedding its brightness on the green mountains that give life to the crops, including coffee trees. Like every day, Dona Luz Marina woke up happy and with a lot of energy to start working in her coffee farm. In the afternoon they bring me a seedling so that you can stay later and receive it. Please do me the favor, and then I have to turn the water intake around. Good morning my youth. Well, today's tasks will be these: Factor and Fabio. Then they will go to El Oviedo to do some farming. Don Orlando will do me a favor and fix drinks for the animals, and then he will go to the cornfield, if Don Orlando agrees. Oh, Mary Luz. How did it dawn? How nice, I'm arriving at a very good time, so you can help me make breakfast. I have people, do you think so? What's at your house? What else, Nydia? I eat a lot, don't you think so? Don't you think so? I come from a coffee tradition. My parents, grandparents, all of them have had coffee farms. Now I am in mine. I like my work. I also started to plant coffee. I have from higher to lower. Coffee goes by scales. The coffee cultivation that we have on the farm today has been renewed, because we have to get rid of the old coffees. I am planting the varieties that they are telling us to plant. At this moment we have the double variety and the Castillo variety.
Quedaron muy buenos. Sí. Sí, ya les vamos a servir. Préstame, Mariluz, una cuchara pequeña.
My staff are wonderful people. I like very much to share with them and they with me, because sometimes I tell them if I am wrong, tell me how I can do this, I will listen to them. Not very well. I like my people. That's what it makes me feel. To stay more on the farm. I miss the people. I miss the jobs. If I like to share with them. This true story is that we were very hunters. One day we were hunting and we took an uncle who was about 70 years old. The guagua was looking for water to defend himself. The dogs threw him and fell into the river with the guagua. Then we said to my uncle, well uncle, they're in the barrel where the water is lower. Take care of the guagua. Well uncle, over there in the barrel where the water is lower. Be careful with the guagua. It's going down there, and we went to look for the guagua. Down river and uncle with a machete. Waiting for the guagua to go down. And from where we were we shouted to my uncle. Be careful. The bus is coming down, be careful. And while we were walking around, we arrived at my uncle's place. I told him, "Uncle, hasn't the bus come down?" And he told me I didn't see him get off. He passed me by and I didn't notice. Why, uncle? I was touching a title with the machete. In the past, coffee growing was more familiar. We all helped to harvest the coffee. The women were in the house helping to prepare the food and attend to the personnel that we had. Today it is different, because it is no longer so familiar. The coffee growers are more technified and we work differently. The violence in our country drove people away from the rural areas when that happened. When people could no longer stay in the countryside, what did the farmers do? The coffee farms traditionally managed many houses within the farms. So it was very common to see a farm with 15, 20, 30 houses, large farms. Those same people who lived there, the sons, the daughters, the ladies, some of them cooked, took care of the farm workers. The others went and did the farm work, harvesting, fertilizing and cleaning the farms. It was a very dynamic culture that created a certain sense of belonging. When modernity comes, logically against that there is nothing to do. Development is inevitable. Changes come in the pulping processes, in the coffee processing processes. Changes that are seen in all activities. Because in any activity you see that people are being replaced by machines. Here it is also the same. The only thing that we cannot replace people in the harvesting. Modernity itself has meant that we no longer need so many people and that these people that have left the farm no longer need to live on the farm. In fact, the harvesting seasons are replaced with people that come from all over the country. Because thanks to God, the harvesting in the country where coffee is produced takes place in different seasons. At that time the harvest was covered by the outsiders that were called all the people that came from other towns to collect the harvest, and there were farms with a lot of personnel. Farms with 40, 50, 100 workers. Here in this village, and today the farm needed 100 workers. Today it needs only 60, and at that time the women and children hardly picked coffee. Most of the personnel for the coffee harvest were men. Colombia has a coffee grower age between 55 and 60 years old, while Vietnam, which took the second place in coffee production in volume from us, has an age of 30 years. You can imagine it is a complete generation. What I mean by this is that in this region we have to worry not so much about bringing people back to the countryside, because that is important. But the most important thing is to train children in the activity of coffee. It is sad to see how children and young people, for example in the municipality where we are today or in any part of Medellin, for example, that Medellin is a coverage area of active coffee also. You ask them about the activity and they do not know anything. It is sad to see how the children and young people, for example in the municipality where we are today or in any part of Medellin, for example, that Medellin is an area of coverage of the active coffee grower as well, you ask them about the activity and they do not know anything. We should include within education with pertinence since we are going to teach people about coffee. For me coffee is everything. I know nothing more than coffee growing, and since today I am in charge of it, I feel even happier to be a coffee farm. For me it means that it is one of the best economies of these towns, because in these towns we all live from coffee. Around here there is a neighbor of mine that they call it the tree of life, because it is a tree that is planted and does not have many problems and produces for years and years. That is why they call it the tree of life, because we all live from it, sometimes harvesting the crops, other times weeding, other times planting, weeding, fertilizing. Coffee generates much employment. It is one of the crops that generates more employment. That means coffee for me. In order to appreciate a cup of Colombian coffee, it is very important to know the work and effort of many people that assure the quality of the final product for consumers all over the world. The union of these efforts has allowed the construction over the decades of a system of support for the product that has become a guarantee of quality. Next we will learn how technified coffee growing is carried out. The genus coffee belongs to the Rubiaceae family, which has about 500 genera and more than 6,000 species. Mostly trees and shrubs are mainly of tropical origin and of a wide distribution. Taxonomically, all these plants are classified as the genus coffee and are characterized by an indentation in the central part of the seed. Climate components. The optimum zone for the cultivation of Arabica coffee is between 19 and 21.5 degrees Celsius. Rainfall. It is considered appropriate for the crop an amount of rainfall between 1,800 and 2,800 millimeters per year. With a good distribution in the different months of the year, at least 120 millimeters per month is required. Air humidity or relative humidity. This component of the climate presents high variations between day and night. In the coffee growing zone the air is normally humid. Soil is the top layer of the earth where the roots of the plants develop. It is essential for the coffee plant because it facilitates anchoring and provides the water and nutrients necessary for its growth, development and production. Degree of acidity or pH. This measure varies between 1 and 14. Good soils for coffee should have an acidity between 5 and 5.5. A process of planting technified coffee begins with a good selection of seeds which is supplied by the National Federation of Coffee Growers. We as coffee growers are always looking to technify our process. Today we have the Castle variety, which is a seed that is entering in an average of 5 years in our coffee growing. After acquiring the seed, we will go to what we call the germinator. Here in the germinator we irrigate the seed as such, we cover it and there it has a germination process that lasts 60 days. While it is in this process, we should also make a pest control, like going to throw a fungicide or insecticides. In these 60 days it remains almost in the dark and with a greater part of humidity. The seed takes approximately 60 days to germinate. Then it is transplanted into bags with substrate and taken to the warehouse. Already at the stage when it reaches its maximum, it also has a control, which will be a weed control, a pest control. Here we start working with fungicides, with insecticides, because in any case we have to do this control, because otherwise we will have problems. Here we will also have a control of products that will help to root and form foliage also. I think that after having this process of 30 days we would go to the field. At this moment we are in the lot where we are going to transplant the seedbed for planting. For planting we need the lot to be organized, free of weeds, and after having them free of weeds we begin to make the trace. Immediately we make the trace we begin to make the trampling. We want to say with this, that if we plant with wide distances we are going to obtain less production, today that we have, and we are achieving a technified coffee growing. We are planting in an area of 1 hectare 10,000 trees per hectare, which is equivalent to having the trees planted at 1 meter by 1 meter. I believe that with this distance we would reach a production of 400 to 500 arrobas per hectare. When we have smaller distances, the same amount of tree tells us that we are going to acquire less production would be 150 to 200 arrobas per hectare. So far, we have made a journey through the history of coffee and part of the technified cultivation. Join us in the second program to discover more about its industrialization, and how the Escobar Arango family has inherited the coffee culture from generation to generation.